What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and typically we do feature a beer of the week. I am Matt. With me, as always, is Lauren, and we have a special guest today because this is a creator-focused episode. You know we love doing these. You know we love talking comics, especially when those who get to write and draw them come on the show. So we are going to be joined, I should say, by Jon Dexter, the writer of a fantastic supernatural thriller, The Dime Store Detective. So before we get to there, you guys know what to do. Do some homework. That is, go on YouTube, all the social medias, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. That's how the podcast can grow. And tell your friend, tell your parents, leave it on the TV while your dog, put it on Alexa while your cat's at home by itself. I may or may not do that sometimes, just so you can hear the sweet sounds of our voices. My dog also has anxiety, so maybe it helps him. I don't know.
Or it freaks
Not
him
an
out.
expert
He's
here.
looking for you.
Or it freaks him out. You're right. But yes, we do have a creator. So typically news, what we're reading, watching, all that stuff, on these creator episodes, we are not going into that. And so I will go ahead and bring in Lauren. How is it going? You're looking fantastic. Look at that Beetlejuice shirt. Yes, we will have a Beetlejuice shirt and a Beetlejuice episode coming out. But what you got going on over there real quick?
I just have water right now in my beer glass. So I'm hydrating before I dehydrate. That's always my plan. But yeah, I was shoveling food in my mouth right before, so I gotta get food and water before I open a beer. But yes, Matt always gets to do the peep fit because he's always dressed nice, and I'm always in a t-shirt or a tank top. But this is for our upcoming Beetlejuice episode because we're getting ready for Beetlejuice. Now I said it 3 times, so we're off to a great start. So very excited to back this comic because I thought it was fantastic, and I can't wait to read more of it.
Well, without further ado, let's introduce to the show. Jon Dexter is joining us here to talk about a couple of great comics. We're going to talk Dime Store Detective first and then Alpha Dog. But Jon, welcome to the show. Go ahead and start us off. Introduce yourself and tell us how your geek origin story and how you got started in comic books.
Yeah, so my name's Jon Dexter. I'm the creator of what you see here. This is my Dime Store Detective, which is currently on Kickstarter. I'm also the creator and writer of Alpha Dogs, and we're up to the graphic novel now. There was the first 4 issues together, and actually just got picked up by a publisher. So if you go to your Simon & Schuster website, you can pre-order Alpha Dogs graphic novel, which is kind of cool. And I'm also the creator of Space Cruisin', which today is the day that I finally packaged up my last Kickstarter comic for it. So that's finally done, and that's exciting. That's a science fiction comedy comic book. So it's been a long time coming. So I actually first created my first comic book back in, oh goodness sakes, like 2008, and it kind of quickly crashed and burned. I think there might be like 5 issues out there somewhere in the world. And then in 2009, I did Space Cruisin' that you see behind me, but I wasn't able to finish. It was a 3-year process of raising the funds to get a page done and raising the funds to get the next page done. And I wasn't able to finish it. So that was 2012. It was, like I said, a 3-year process. And then I kind of abandoned it and went on to something else. And then in 2021 is when I launched a kind of official real launch of a comic book for Alpha Dogs issue 1 on Kickstarter. It was during COVID, so there was no publishers taking it. I'd heard of Kickstarter and thought, wow, this is really cool avenue. And during COVID, Kickstarter was really popular because people couldn't go anywhere. And now I'm up to my 10th Kickstarter, so it's been quite a quick road. And so yeah, I've got 3 titles out right now, and Dime Store Detective issues 1 through 4 is on currently, but you can get all of my comics. You can get issue 1 of Space Cruisin' and the graphic novel of Alpha Dogs in that Kickstarter. So it's pretty exciting. A lot of people that are just find out who I am can kind of catch up on my work.
It's kind of like, where was Kickstarter when, 2008, that stuff when you're like, what the hell? I could have been doing this whole time, but it's really cool that you got to find it. What got you into like comic books? Do you remember picking up your first comic book and just falling in love?
Well, I mean, I like any kid of the 80s, everybody loves Spider-Man. Spider-Man was popular. So, I mean, it was probably no different, but it was really back in 93, 92 when the X-Men, the Fox Kids X-Men show came out.
Oh, yeah.
That is what I think a lot of people in my age group is how they loved comics and learned of comics, that I just became obsessed. I was using my paper route money to buy back issues of X-Men, anything with Wolverine versus Sabretooth. It was really cool. That was about the time that not Stanley, Chris Claremont and Jim Lee's X-Men 1 came out. That was like the biggest selling comic. So it was just X-Men was so popular, and everybody, we'd go to school, we talk about that episode of the X-Men because it was not like any other cartoon. It was not really, adults could like it, kids could. It was very grounded. So that was really what started my obsession with comics, and especially Wolverine and the X-Men. I've read so much of Claremont's run in the 80s. I mean, that was unprecedented, I think.
Well, and that's probably one of our most common origin stories is the X-Men animated series. So we get that answer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it was that generation Star Wars. So many filmmakers of today that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s. They all point to Star Wars as the one that got them interested, and I think that's very reminiscent of people in the comics now in my age group was the X-Men show. It was just so much better than anything else.
Oh yeah, it was without a doubt. I mean, it's so adult driven, and like it's not just your typical like
goodness.
I mean, even the new one. And then so you're into the X-Men, you're into comics. What drew you to writing over? Did you try doing art? And a lot of people give us this. It's like I can't do art. Like me myself, I chose writing because I can't draw to save my life. But what drew you to like the writing world of things?
Well, it was just ingrained in me. I don't know. I mean, ever since I can remember, I pretended my bedroom was a movie studio and I was making movies and television shows. I was obsessed with any of this stuff. I love telling stories ever since I can remember, and creating original stories. That's just how I've always been. And then when I was a teenager, I started screenwriting. I wanted to be a screenwriter, and wrote a lot of scripts. Then in I think it was 2014, 15, something like that. One of my scripts, it was historical fiction, made it all the way to the semifinals. The Academy Awards puts on a screenwriting contest, and if you finish in the top 5, then you could get a movie deal. There's been like a lot of movies that have been made from the Academy. It's called the Nicole Fellowship, sponsored by the Academy Awards, and 2 of my script was the semifinals 2 years in a row. So to make that, it's top 180 out of 7,400 scripts. So I got a lot of buzz and some people looking at it, but like 99% of screenplays, it just ends up not getting made. And then with Alpha Dogs, I just thought that really lent itself to a comic book. So Alpha Dogs actually is inspired by my dog. We had a pit bull mix, and we lived in this town in Kirksville, Missouri, that had outlawed pit bulls. So we were going to get rid of our dog, of course. So we moved, and that inspired me to create this series about this dog that's feared by the public because of his breed and size, but he actually has a huge heart. Now, in Alpha Dogs, Buck, the main character, who's modeled after my dog, he has the ability to heal from any wound. He's smart enough to understand human speech, and he has a heightened strength. Him and his owner are on the run from mercenaries that are attempting to kidnap him to manipulate his power. So there's other dogs come in. It's kind of like sort of an X-Men of dogs, so to speak. There's these
That's
dogs
amazing,
that have unique abilities, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, I'm nowhere near where I'd like to be, but it's definitely generated enough buzz. And as I said, I was approached for a publisher with Dime Store Detective, actually, but they only publish graphic novels. So I'm talking about Source Point Press. And so because Dime Store wasn't a graphic novel, I said, well, I've got this other series, Alpha Dogs, and they really loved Alpha Dogs. So I signed. This has been going on since like March, and it was 3 days ago that it was officially announced on what do you call it, press junket, whatever that. Alpha Dogs will be published through Simon & Schuster, so you can go to the website. You can go to my Facebook, my social media. I'm of course linking it because the more people that talk to their bookstore, talk to their store, and say, hey, pre-order this. It comes out January 14th, and it'll be hopefully a success. I mean, that's the dream of every writer, is to get published. So.
Yeah, so we always tell everybody, go to your local comic book shop and have them show some interest there. That's always we always say that's the best way to go about it.
Physical media too, and really going in there. You're supporting two ways. I mean, you're supporting writers and creators and artists, and then you're also supporting your bookstore, your local comic book shop. So yeah, Lauren, why don't you take us into Dime Store Detective as that we kind of roll into the story now?
Yes, so you have it listed as a supernatural crime noir, which I absolutely love both of those areas. So it was such a fun mashup. And I was saying before we hit the record button, we got to read issue 1. And the last page, I was like, no, don't end it here. So I'm very much so looking forward to reading more and learning more, because obviously there's a lot of mystery and a lot of history going on. So can you give us, before we go more into it, your very short pitch for Dime Store Detective?
Yeah, well, before I say that, issues 1 are always the hardest. They're always the most difficult, because you don't want to give too much exhibition. You want to give people a taste. So if you like issue 1, you're really going to love the following issues when we really delve into the story. But so Dime Store Detective, if you look at it in the Kickstarter or something, you might get a little confused, because it's whenever it's in color, we're in the present with Detective Donald Mackinder. He's a detective who really goes against the grain. City Hall hates him. The captains hate him. He is not somebody that plays politics. He's out there trying to do right by victims. But I'm not really giving much of an elevator pitch here. But so Dime Store Detective goes back and forth. So we're in the present. It's in color when Detective Mackinder is on the hunt for a serial killer. Then whenever in black and white is when we flash back to 1981, when Detective Mackinder is 8 years old, raised by moonshiners. It's a family that has 4 generations of moonshining, very proud people. And the Dixie Mafia, this gang, comes in, which Dixie Mafia was a real gang. Think of New York Mafia, but of the South. And the story takes place in North Georgia. And this gang of drug runners, hitmen, they try to push the family out of business by force, but they're not going to go away. They're not going to just turn tail, so they end up going to war. And as the story unfolds, spoiler alert, the detective's father and uncle have to find a new place to hide their still, because they've been attacked, and they end up in the Appalachian Mountains, and they find this hidden cave. And inside this cave is this evil, malevolent entity that's been trapped by the Cherokee for hundreds of years. And the father and uncle inadvertently release it, and all hell kind of breaks loose. And as we go back and forth, this evil entity has perhaps returned in the present and is trying to get Detective Donald Mackinder's attention. So it's if you like Stephen King's It, if you like True Detective, LA Confidential, if you like the gritty crime mysteries, and if you like supernatural stories, if you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah, I thought it's really cool, because you start this off as essentially it's another crime, almost crime noir story. And, you see something going on with our main detective, Don, like what he's tied to this. He's not going to like that you're here. What's going on? We see a very, it starts off almost like pleasant. And I like what you guys did as far as the artwork goes. When things are flashbacks, it's very basic, like white and black. Clear, and then you go very clear. Yeah. You're not confused between going back and forth. And then it jumps to like this woman strung up in the woods. And then we get some more of the backstory.
Sucked in real quick.
Yes.
You get a letter from dad, and then this woman strung up. So you're instantly like there's no, when is this story going to kick off? No, it was immediately like you're sucked into it, right away.
I'm sorry. I just to say I'm a big proponent of hooking the reader, getting them interested. I can't stand comics that have all this exposition and get bogged down. So I like to just get right into it, and then hopefully you kind of empathize with the main character, and then you follow him on his journey. So sorry. I mean, like you said,
the first issue is very important too. Like if somebody kind of digs into it and it's like, oh, this isn't really going anywhere yet. And in comics, you don't have a lot of time either. Your pages can be very limited. So it's important. I like when stories do that, because I think something that this issue did particularly well, issue 1, is you do kind of jump us right into the story, but then you kind of backtrack a little bit, and then you add some layers and some depth into the very beginning, which is a very clever way of hooking somebody. And then you're like, all right, now that I got you here, let's back up and we're going to go ahead and dive a little bit deeper. So Lauren, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. What do you have?
No, you're fine. No, I mean, you're kind of answering the question, because my next question was really, you know, we got obviously whodunit vibes, we got supernatural vibes. What were some of your inspirations? But are there any, because you already listed Stephen King, True Detective. I'm sure you're familiar with the TV show Supernatural. I'm a huge fan. Matt's on his first watch. So there was a muscle car, there was a demon.
The muscle car is Fast and Furious, Lauren, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, I drew a lot of parallels to that as well. And immediately you have a note from Dad, and that's a big thing in Supernatural too, is the family and the bonding. And you know, right away when you meet the detective, what I was going to say is you almost immediately know what kind of guy this is. Like, you've seen these stories where everyone thinks he's not the best guy, but he really does have a heart, kind of like Wolverine. He has a heart of gold. He doesn't want anybody to know it. He wants to do right, but he gets caught up in his own stuff. Hey, he was saying how much he loves Wolverine, so I'm allowed to compare it to Wolverine, Matt.
I know. Hey, you know what? I bring everything Fast and Furious around. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would love to do Alpha Dog's homage Wolverine to that poster, but it just wouldn't look right with a dog's claws. It just wouldn't anamorphically. So unfortunately, I won't be able to do it. So it sucks, but because that's my favorite covers. But anyway, so the car is a '73 Barracuda, and I wanted it to be kind of a character in the story, a la, you know, Supernatural car, Kit from Knight Rider. So Moonshiners, as most people, I'm sure you guys know, you know, they had outrun the cops. That was the start of the Daytona. Start of NASCAR. So the Moonshiners have to have a souped up, you know, a muscle car to outrun the cops. So that car is passed down to the son. So in the present, Detective Mackinder drives that Barracuda, which is kind of cool, I think. And I wanted to kind of be a character. Plus, you know, you're passing down that car to the son to show, you know, the bond. And that's really one of the themes of the story, is the bond between the father and son. And the father, Detective Mackinder's father, has been vilified as this murderer, you know, moonshiner, but it doesn't deter the son from his love for his father. And there's that connection that kind of threads through the story. But yeah, the car's cool. Now, why I picked the Barracuda is my dad was a big muscle car fan, and he had that car. He restored it, and so I've always had an epiphany. I always had a love for that car. So I don't know where epiphany came from. But,
you're thinking affinity. I got you. No, I
affinity,
yes, affinity. Thank you. And affinity for it. Thanks for saving me, Matt.
I got you. No, yeah, I got you. I understand, because my father-in-law had a Bonneville, and he loved and cherished it. He actually used to take it to like the Detroit Auto Show all the time.
Nice.
Then he sold it without telling us, which broke my wife's heart, because she was hoping that we could like buy it from him at some point, because it was like her favorite thing ever. But something, actually, Lauren, go ahead, because again, I apologize, I cut you off before I dive into my next question. So go ahead.
So, you know, a lot of people write what they know. So what made you choose to do this in Georgia and focus on moonshine?
So I had to have a dry county, Georgia. I had to have the Appalachian Mountains, and that is part of Georgia. So that was the two big thing. And really, it's I wanted to have that Southern goth feel, the Southern Gothic feel, you know, Savannah. Well, not so much Savannah, but that kind of that rugged. I don't want to say hillbilly, but you know, kind of the back.
Yeah. I mean, we watched the Moonshiners on the History Channel. That's kind of still what they portray to this day. I mean, there's still like
the genesis. Yeah. So the genesis of the story came many years ago. If you guys remember when we were on the hunt for bin Laden, and he was in the caves in Afghanistan, and they were saying that there were caves that are so dense in there that some of them have never been discovered. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be a great story to have these Marines hunt for bin Laden? They find this hidden cave, and they find in this hidden cave is this evil entity that's been trapped there, and they release it, and it possesses one of the soldiers, and you know, we go from there. And so I wrote that as a screenplay many years ago, but there was just something about it. I felt like it wasn't quite original enough. It didn't really knock somebody's socks off, because, you know, nobody knows me from Adam. So if I'm going to write something that's going to be successful, it better be really good. So it sat there for many years. And then about how now it's going on probably 3 years ago, I had listened to this podcast about the Dixie Mafia and how these guys if you're familiar with Walking Tall, not the rock. Now there's a rock version.
Yeah. There is a rock, and there's like a TV show,
real version of Walking Tall, which is a true story about Buford T. Pussard. He was this guy who took on the Dixie Mafia. His wife ended up getting murdered. He ended up really bad, shot up and stuff. So, and these guys were drug runners. They were hitmen. They did pretty much, I mean, they kind of ruled down in the South. And so I just thought, wow, how has there never been a story about these guys? I mean, it was just so fascinating to me that about this Dixie Mafia and their history. And I just couldn't understand how I thought it was just fertile ground. And then I remembered my detective story, and I thought, wow, this would be a great, this would just make a fantastic comic book. If I put it together, I worked it out, and I actually wrote Dexter Detective, which is 8 issues in all. I wrote all 8 issues inside of a month because when it clicks, it just clicks. So,
you got to get it out. That was going to be one of my next questions. How many issues? Do you think you'll go further than 8 issues, or backstories or anything?
No, I don't think so. Sorry, I got a dog.
Okay, fine.
I got 2.
So it's only gonna be 8 issues, but I did have another story, kind of a supernatural story. So maybe in a perfect world, eventually there'll be another Dexter Detective, but it won't be the same story. It'll be totally different story.
But it'll be like a similar kind of premise.
Yes, exactly.
Ooh, like a connected universe. Oh, I like that idea.
Yeah,
there's a lot of possibilities.
So we'll see what happens.
Now, so something like we kind of brought up and made me think here is the fact that you talked about like this was a real, mafia. And, when you think about moonshiners and mafia members, they don't typically tend to be the nicest people. However, his father and uncle, they kind of like are very about the town. They want to help out the town. They're very good people. Like in the first issue, they inadvertently hit a dog, and he wants to go and bring the dog to the family. They know whose dog it is, even if it means he gets arrested.
So that they can,
exactly. And he ends up going to jail. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic. What made you kind of go the route of like, he's this really family man versus kind of like the generic, it would have been easier, I guess, to go the generic way. But what made you like, hey, this family bond means more than anything, and they're very helpful?
Yeah. Well, I've described Dexter Detective a little bit as like a really, really dark version of Dukes of Hazzard. Only they're brothers and cousins. So they got good hearts. The father. So what I was trying to do is instill not only this, because the detective Donald Mackinder is a good man. He's got a good heart. So his father instills those values in his son, and as the stories goes along, you'll find out that the father is a very honest man. I mean, moonshining is the story. It's man's law. It's not. I don't consider it wrong to be a moonshiner.
Right. It doesn't have to be
because the government can't take your money. Yeah, exactly. So. Just because someone's a moonshiner doesn't make him a bad person, but they are obviously vilified in many respects. So I wanted to set up the father instilling life lessons into his son. And as the story goes along, we'll find out that sometimes you have to sacrifice, for the good of many. And not to pull a line from Star Trek, but what is it? The good of the many opposed to the good of
okay.
They used it in Seinfeld. The well of one as opposed to the good of everybody. Wow, I really screwed up that famous.
I mean, I know what we see that quote in so many different versions and so many different things. Like so many villains, that's like their go-to thing of trying to sacrifice somebody who's not willing to be sacrificed. Now, if you're sacrificing yourself, that's different.
Yeah. So it's I'm trying to find the line now because it's gonna really bug me.
You have to finish it. Yeah, that's the one fandom on the show where we haven't gotten into is Star Trek. I've seen the movies, and I grew up.
Oh yeah, I've seen the movies and everything like that too.
But we haven't done, and I've heard the new series is fantastic, but we haven't. I have too many hobbies, man. Can't get into another one. But I need to go back and rewatch Seinfeld. I haven't watched it in forever, and I've so many that I've totally forgot or went over my head when I watched.
Yeah, so the father makes a lot of sacrifices his son does to do the right thing. And like I said, it's basically we're trying to show people that that the father's trying to instill life lessons. In another issue, he's teaching the son how to shave, and I really try to reinforce that love, that bond between the father and the son, because it will come up to play as the issue goes along.
Yeah, the mother doesn't seem too lovely, but the father does.
The mother is a very narcissistic person, and as the story goes along, like I said, not to give too much away, but so the son basically begs his dad not to tell the cops about the murders that have happened. As we get into the uncle, and might have something to do with the entity it has to do with, and the father wants to kind of come clean, and the son kind of begs him not to, because he does not want to be stuck with his mother, just him and her, because she is a very narcissistic person.
Yeah, very toxic. So one of our last questions that we do comic book focus before we get into more where people can find you, upcoming projects, all that. How was the process with the art? We already touched on the fact that the past was black and white, the present was color. But your artist, was there a lot of back and forth? Did your vision in your head come to the paper pretty smoothly? How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key with picking an artist is you want to detail your script, but you don't want to, it's a collaborative effort, a comic book is. So you really don't want, would ever want to pigeonhole a comic book with just my vision. So I do, give the context, subcontext, and kind of lay it out in the script, but then the artist kind of does his own thing. And 9 times out of 10, he does Lucas Orita, who I'm talking about, my artist, for the coloring, and then the artist for the comic book is amazing, Alfredo Retamar. He's from Argentina. Stone Tower Studios is the studio that produces the comic. They do everything: the art, the graphics, the lettering, and they just do a fantastic job. I got really lucky. And so, yeah, I mean, the comic book is kind of a collaborative effort. There isn't too much dissent. Sometimes they'll say, hey, this guy shouldn't be smiling so much. That was a note I made just a couple of days ago, stuff like that, But I think if you write a script well enough and detail it to where, you shouldn't have to get too, taskmaster-ish, because it is a collaborative effort. You don't want it just to be your vision, because then you just pigeonhole your script. It's like a movie,
Right. Having it black and white in the past, was that your idea or was that the artist's idea?
No, it was my idea. I wanted 2 reasons. I mean, if I had my way, because I wanted that gritty noir, I would have whole comic in black and white, but then I thought, well, that wouldn't work, because once you start confusing a reader, then you've lost them. And this, if I hadn't have done the switch back and forth, and plus I hate having to lay everything out. When we go back and forth, you got to put past, present, and sometimes people miss it. So I just thought, it's kind of, I don't want to call myself ingenious, but I thought it was a good idea. I really enjoyed it, how I did it, going back and forth, color to black and white, because I want to have that gritty feel anyway. And I didn't want to confuse people, because in your head, it's obvious, but as a reader, I mean, I'm always shocked that somebody will say, well, this confused me because you didn't say past. I thought, well, he's got a beard now and she's got long hair, and he didn't have a beard earlier and she didn't have long hair, but it's in your head. But a comic book can be very confusing, because a lot of us, we read a comic to escape, it's escapism. So you don't want to sit there and having to figure out stuff. So that's why.
Well, and how you did it was a lot of fun too, because you had the one scene like on the same page. Like that was a very creative and fun way to tell the story and not confuse the reader. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, it's a very, obviously a very collaborative way, and that's almost the most important piece. And I really, really enjoy, and can't say enough, like how defining each kind of are. So I know that issues 1 through, so you can get issue 4 on Kickstarter, but it comes with the other issues. What are some other things that the Kickstarter is offering? I know you mentioned alpha dogs and things of that nature. Are you guys offering any special tiers, or what kind of things are you offering through the Kickstarter?
Yeah, so if you go to the Kickstarter, if you type in Dime Store Detective, or if you type in my name, Jon Dexter, or if you type in any of my comics, Alpha Dog, Space Cruise, and you can get to the Dime Store Detective. And I would really encourage anybody to do it, because the trailer is really cool. the trailer for Dexter Detective. If it doesn't get you pumped to buy the comic, then I'm kind of out of ideas, because it's a great trailer, and you can watch the other trailers are really cool. But yeah, some of the tiers, so you can get issue 4, you can get every issue individually. It starts out issue 1 for 10, and then this is for print for 12 or $12 each. Or you can get the tier that has issues 1 through 4 for, I believe, $35. You can also get a special edition for a little bit more, where I sign them all and you get your name in the thank you page. So it's just a little bit more. But yeah, there's 3 different covers. They're all amazing covers. Again, I encourage people to check out the Kickstarter to see the covers are really cool. But yeah, it starts out $12 for issue 4, which really nowadays with the kind of printing, it's a 24-page comic, is a really good deal. There's a lot of people I've seen are bumping their comics up to 15 for 24 pages, just because the cost of printing is just sky high nowadays. And the variant covers are so it's 12, 14, or 15, and which is, I believe, a really good deal, because a lot of people's variant covers, go for $20. So, and then if you pay just $2 more, then I sign the comic and you get your name in the thank you page. So your name is going to be in the comic. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, I did see that at the end, which is really cool. It's a good way of personalizing it. I think that means a lot. There's something really cool that, not saying not enough people do, but I noticed that you did, for example, which is really rad.
Yeah. I think it's kind of cool, and people really, enjoy that aspect of collecting. And then there's a tier where I'm trying to look up the price. I think it's $90, and you get every single issue of Dime Store Detective, every cover. I'm trying to look up. So I'm sorry. So the $90 is the collection, and that's all of 4 issues of Dime Store Detective, plus issue 1 of Space Cruisin', and the trade paperback of Alpha Dogs, which is 4 issues plus a bonus story that you can only get in the graphic novels. Because I did the individual comics, but to get people to come back and buy the graphic novel, I needed to offer, obviously, an incentive. So there's a bonus story in there that you can only get there. So that's only $90, and that's 2 of the issues of Dime Store Detective are 28 pages. So you're getting a lot of comic book, a lot of bang for your buck. And for $120, you can get every single cover of Dime Store Detective. And some of them, this will be the last time I'm able to offer the covers, the variant covers for issue 2, because I'm almost out of them. So there's 2 covers for issue 1. There's 3 covers for issue 2, 3 for issue 3, and 4 for issue 4. And they're all amazing covers. Like I said, I've been very lucky, very blessed with the cover artists, interior artists that I have. So it'll probably be the last chance to get some of the covers for Dime Store Detective. And then this will probably be possibly the last time I'm able to offer this, because I don't want to get rid of any of my original artwork from the comic. So issue 1 was hand drawn, and half of issue 2 was hand drawn. Then everything after that was digital. So I only have a few of the original art from the comic book, and I'm only offering 5 of them. That might be the last time I do it, because that's the only original pieces I have from any of my comics is this Dime Store Detective 1 and half of 2. So I'm offering those. That's $140. You get the digital version, and I probably skipped over this. So if you choose the physical edition of Dime Store Detective, you also get the digital version included. So or you can just get the digital version, which is only $5.
Nice. Now, aside from that Kickstarter, I know you mentioned to us before the show you had some upcoming events you're going to be at. So where can people come and see you? Are they going to be able to get their hands on Dime Store Detective, Alpha Dog, Space Cruisin', and all of the works that you've had?
Yeah, so I'll be at Frankenfest September 14th in Detroit. It's a really cool horror convention. It's got paranormal stuff. It's got all sorts of different dealers, and it also will have my comics there for Dime Store Detective, Space Cruisin', and Alpha Dog. You can purchase those at September 14th, and then I'll be at Motor City Comic Con. It's Michigan's biggest Comic Con of the year, and that's, I believe, it's November 7th. or the 14th, I can remember, but I'll be there as well. I have a table there, and that's always a lot of fun. I went there. I've been there a few years, so that'll be, and then maybe at the Grand Rapids one in November as well. I'm still waiting to hear back.
Busy month. We got to load up on food and walk it off at a con. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, the cons have now wound down. I was just at Chicago Fan Expo 2 weeks ago, so it's been I've been at a lot of shows this year, but yeah, it's finally winding down.
It is kind of nice when they do kind of wind down, but it's also fun getting to go to these things. A big missed opportunity for FrankenCon to take place in Frankenmuth. Just pointing that out because that's all I think of. Like here, FrankenCon.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Frankenmuth was a lot of fun. I actually, the first time I was ever there was this year, if you can believe that. I've almost been a lifelong Michigander, with the exception of I lived in Florida for 3 years. I lived in Missouri for 4 years. But yeah, other than that, I've been a Michigander my whole life. And yeah, this was the first year I've ever been to Frankenmuth.
Well, it's exciting. It's good. Everybody out there, hopefully they can come and find you. Where can they specifically follow your social medias and things to keep up to date with what's going on, and where else they may be able to find you down the road?
Yeah, so on X, I'm at Real Alpha Dogs. On Instagram, I'm at alpha_dogs_comic. And I'm on Facebook and Alpha Dogs on Facebook, but hopefully you don't have too much trouble finding me because Facebook really kind of buries me. So yeah, I think if you type in like Jon Dexter 77, I should come up. But I've been a lot of people that have tried to find me and can't find me on Facebook. I think it's because I promote so much that the Facebook just kind of like buries me.
Social media these days, it's, if anybody cracks the code on how to properly work the social medias, then please, by all means, let us all know.
But as soon as somebody cracks it, they change it. That's
they
the
do.
thing.
Exactly.
Like crap on our secrets between X and Facebook, Instagram. It is hard. And it is also like a third, second, fourth job sometimes at that. So hopefully, people come and see you at the cons. I can tell you right now, we're going to be trying to get a look at and, supporting Jon in his endeavors, because this is a really great comic book, Dime Store Detective. It had us hooked. We are going to make sure that we read, especially cannot wait to read the full 8 issues 1 through 4, Kickstarter right there. Go follow it. Show links. Everything is down in the bio. So if you liked what you heard, hopefully you did, go and support that. If you're going to be in Michigan, if you're traveling in Michigan, make it to one of these Comic-Cons and pay Jon a visit. And Jon, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us, and cannot wait to do it again at some point.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun, and it was nice to meet both of you.
Absolutely. Lauren, any final thoughts as we wrap up?
No, but I could keep you here all night to talk Universal and Wolverine. But yeah, no, go grab this comic. It was great. If you've been following us for the supernatural content, you'll very much so enjoy this comic.
You will. So absolutely. And everybody, as you always know, make sure to like, subscribe, share, follow. That's how the podcast grows. I guess you can leave comments on Spotify now, which I found out. So if you want to do that, YouTube right here. If you're watching YouTube, make sure we're almost to 1,000, man. Help us get over that 1,000 mark, because the first 1,000 is always the hardest. Somebody said
been
that.
The hardest. Yeah, YouTube has grown the slowest.
I think Abraham Lincoln once said that YouTube, the first 1,000 are the hardest. Could be wrong.
That makes sense. He was a wise man.
Is that for his 4-score speech?
It was in his Gettysburg Address. That's also what he said.
YouTube's the hardest.
That said, everybody, get ready as go listen to our other episodes, Beetlejuice, and as we're kind of an unofficial kickoff into spooky season. I know it's August,
but it's showtime.
When this drops, actually, it's September, and then the leaves are changing around my house, but you know what that means.
Still 98 degrees here.
It was 102 degrees here, so a man can dream.
According to the movie theaters and Disney Plus, it's spooky season.
Right, and pumpkin spice is out. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. We will see you all soon. Cheers.